Welcome back to our Explainer series. Today, as your RCM trainer, I am absolutely thrilled to walk you through mastering one of the most common, yet kind of complex hurdles in our field, and that is medical necessity denials. Seriously, if you have ever stared at a denied claim and wondered exactly what the payer meant by not medically necessary, you are in the exact right place. We are diving into part 24 of our training, Medical Necessity and Experimental Service Denials, and we'll be covering CO50 codes along with the LCD and NCD frameworks. Let's get into it. Here is our quick roadmap for today. We'll define medical necessity, look at the LCD and NCD framework, identify the root causes of these denials, walk through a step-by-step resolution workflow, review a standard CALLER note, and then wrap it all up with a quick knowledge check. All right, starting things off with Section 1. What is medical necessity? We're going to define the core concept and the key denial codes. So we really need to lay the foundation first. What do payers actually mean when they say something is not medically necessary? Well, by definition, it means providing accepted healthcare services that are appropriate for treating a specific condition, and they have to match the standard of care. Think about it like this. If a patient comes in with a paper cut and a full-body MRI is ordered, yeah, that falls way outside the efficient standard of care, and the payer will absolutely flag it. Now, when payers do contest a claim, you're going to see these specific alphanumeric codes pop up on your explanation of benefits. CO50, that is your classic medical necessity denial. Then there's CO57, which flags that the level of service, the length, or the dosage just isn't supported. CO151 questions the frequency of the services billed. And finally, N115, which tells us the decision is tied directly to a local coverage determination. Moving right along to Section 2, the LCD and NCD framework. Let's understand these coverage determinations. You can basically think of local coverage determinations, or LCD, and national coverage determinations, NCD, as the payer's ultimate rulebooks. They dictate the exact, non-negotiable clinical criteria required for any covered procedure. They spell out precisely under what clinical circumstances a service is considered reasonable and necessary. So if your claim's diagnosis doesn't perfectly align with the procedure according to these specific rulebooks, you are getting a denial for sure. Okay, Section 3, root causes of denials. Let's figure out why payers actually trigger these medical necessity denials in the first place. Before we can solve a denial, we've got to do a root cause analysis, right? The most common culprit that'll stall your revenue cycle is an incompatible diagnosis. Imagine building a pregnancy test for a male patient. It's just not going to go through. Other big causes include exceeding the frequency limits for a specific service, billing for experimental treatments, or honestly, simply missing the clinical records required to medically certify the treatment. Which brings us to Section 4, our step-by-step resolution workflow. We're going to look at some decision trees and scenarios. This right here is basically your core troubleshooting map. You always want to start with a very simple question. Were any claims paid recently with this exact same procedure and diagnosis code? If yes, boom, you call the payer to reprocess. If no, you check if the claim can be appealed using medical records. It's a really logical, highly structured path to getting a resolution. So let's break that down into 3 specific scenarios. Scenario 1 is your easy win, a payer processing error. First things first. Check the billing summary for previously paid claims for this patient with the exact same CPT and diagnosis combo. If you find one, simply call the payer rep and request direct claim reprocessing based on that historical payment. It's usually a quick fix. Now for Scenario 2, an incompatible diagnosis code. Here, you'll want to refer to the NCD or LCD lookup tool. If you see an incompatibility, your next step is to collaborate with your coding team. Seriously, never guess on this. You route the account to coding review to see if the clinical notes support assigning a different diagnosis code. Once they provide the correct details, you just resubmit to the clearinghouse as a corrected claim. And then we have Scenario 3, the clinical appeal. When your coding team confirms the codes are perfectly accurate, but the payer still refuses to pay, you've got to assemble rock-solid medical records. First, strictly verify the appeal limits. Often it's just a 90-day window, and get the exact mailing address. Then, bundle the complete clinical records, the denial letter, and the original claim to forcefully prove medical necessity. All right, moving into Section 5, the standard CALLER note. This is all about documenting your resolution actions. Look, fixing the account is only half the job. Properly documenting it in the billing system is what actually seals the deal. Determining next steps depends entirely upon how well the previous notes were entered. So please use this standardized plug-and-play template. It includes the date of service, billed amount, who you spoke with, call reference numbers, the specific CO denial reason, and your exact next steps. Never leave your team guessing.
Finally, Section 6. Let's do a quick medical necessity knowledge check to test your RCM expertise.
Let's see what stuck from today's explainer. Question 1. What does Claim Adjustment Reason Code CO50 signify in revenue cycle management? Is it A, exhausted benefits, B, non-covered service, not deemed a medical necessity, or C, missing authorization? All right, question 2. Which tool should an AR associate use to verify if a procedure requires specific clinical circumstances? Would it be A, the NCD/LCD procedure to diagnosis lookup tool, B, patient demographics entry, or C, a clearinghouse syntax check? And last but not least, question 3. In scenario 3, if coding is correct but the claim is denied for medical necessity, what must you do? A, write off the charge, B, bill the patient directly, or C, obtain appeal limits, address, and submit clinical medical records. Okay, let's see how you did. Check your answers against this key. Question 1 is B. CO50 is your classic medical necessity denial. Question 2 is A. You'll always want to use the NCD or LCD lookup tool. And question 3 is C. You assemble those clinical medical records for a formal appeal. If you got all 3 right, you are well on your way to mastering these complex denials. As you hit the floor today, keep in mind that every single detail counts when you're battling medical necessity denials. Ask yourself, are your notes painting the full clinical picture, or are you leaving revenue on the table? Mastering this means you aren't just pushing paper, you're translating real clinical care into the revenue that keeps your entire facility running. Share and subscribe for free courses on Decode Healthcare with Harshal.